The alarms screamed through the observation deck like dying banshees. Dr. Sarah Chen's coffee mug shattered against the floor as she lunged for her workstation, her heart hammering against her ribs. After 15 years monitoring deep space at the Kepler station, she had never heard the emergency klaxon sound with such desperate urgency. "What's happening?" she shouted over the noise, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that flickered with impossible data readings. Commander Marcus Rodriguez burst through the sliding doors, his usually perfect uniform disheveled, sweat beading on his dark forehead. "Chen, tell me your equipment is malfunctioning. Please tell me this is just a glitch." Sarah's blood turned to ice water as she stared at the readings. The signal was coming from Kepler 438b, a planet that every civilized species in the galaxy had agreed to never approach. The Death World. The nightmare planet where nothing should be able to survive, let alone broadcast into space. "Sir, the signal it's clean, too clean, and it's getting stronger." Her voice cracked as she pulled up the waveform analysis. "Commander, whatever sent this has technology that makes our best systems look like stone tools." The signal pulsed across her screen in perfect mathematical harmony. But it wasn't the technology that made her hands shake. It was the message itself, repeating over and over in flawless galactic standard. "Hello, friends. We have been waiting for you to listen. We are ready to meet." Rodriguez staggered backward as if struck. Everyone in the galaxy knew the stories about Kepler 438b. Temperatures that could melt lead, atmospheric pressure that would crush a starship, radiation levels that turned living tissue into soup in minutes. It was the planet that had destroyed 3 research expeditions without leaving a single survivor or trace of wreckage. "Get me the Galactic Council," Rodriguez whispered. "Now." But as Sarah reached for the communications array, every screen in the observatory lit up with the same impossible message. The signal wasn't just reaching them anymore. It was broadcasting to every inhabited world, every space station, every ship in the known galaxy. Kepler 438b was saying hello to everyone, at once. And somehow Sarah realized with growing horror it knew they were listening. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in a chamber that had seen 1,000 species debate everything, from trade disputes to interstellar wars. But Admiral Vex had never seen the assembled delegates look so uniformly terrified. "Tholauri," Zephyrian ambassador's crystalline form flickered with anxious purple light. The Hearthen representative's 6 arms twisted together in a gesture of deep unease. Even the normally stoic Andromedans showed signs of distress in the way their mental emanations rippled through the chamber. "The signal has been broadcasting for 6 hours, Admiral Vex announced, his weathered face grim as he stood before the massive holographic display showing Kepler 438b. The planet hung in space like a malevolent orange eye, its surface wreathed in toxic storms. Every major communication network in the galaxy has received it. Panic is spreading through civilian populations on 17 worlds." Senator Kayla Thorne of the Terran Federation leaned forward, her intelligent eyes fixed on the data streams flowing across her personal display. "What are our xenobiological experts saying? Is it possible for any known life form to survive on that hell world?" The silence stretched until Dr. Yix, the Council's chief scientist, activated his translation matrix. His words came out in mechanical galactic standard, but the fear in them was unmistakably organic. "Senators, the surface temperature of Kepler 438b averages 847 degrees Celsius. The atmospheric pressure is 127 times that of Earth standard. The radiation levels would kill most known life forms in 3.7 minutes. Most known life forms," Senator Thorne repeated slowly. "But not all?" Dr. Yix's tentacles writhed in distress. "There are theoretical extremophiles that might survive such conditions for brief periods. But the technology required to broadcast across galactic distances, it would require a civilization more advanced than any we have encountered." Admiral Vex activated the audio playback and the chamber filled with the eerily calm voice. "Hello, friends. We have been waiting for you to listen. We are ready to meet." The Zephyrian ambassador's light shifted to deep red. The vocal patterns suggest multiple speakers, An entire population, not just individuals. How many expeditions have we lost to that planet? Senator Thorne asked, though everyone knew the answer. 3, Admiral Vex replied grimly. The research vessel Curiosity, 20 years ago. All 127 crew members vanished. The automated probe Deep-Eye 15 years ago, destroyed within minutes of entering the atmosphere. The military reconnaissance ship Sword of Truth 10 years ago. 400 of our best soldiers, gone without a trace. Senator Thorne stood slowly, her decision crystallizing. I'm proposing we send a diplomatic mission. The chamber erupted in protests from a dozen species, their various forms of outrage creating a cacophony of sounds and psychic emanations. But Thorne's voice cut through it all. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done it already. Any species with technology advanced enough to broadcast simultaneously to every world in the galaxy doesn't need to ask permission to hurt us. The message said they're ready to meet. Maybe it's time we found out what's been waiting for us on the scariest planet in the galaxy. Admiral Vex felt a chill run down his spine. Because deep down, he knew she was right. And that terrified him, more than any weapon ever could. The diplomatic vessel Harmony had been designed for first contact scenarios. But Captain Elena Vasquez doubted its creators had ever imagined it approaching a world like Kepler 438b. Through the reinforced viewports, the planet grew larger and more menacing with each passing hour, its orange surface swirling with continent-sized storms. Final approach in 30 minutes, Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel, his usually steady voice tight with tension. Environmental suits are testing at maximum protection levels, but they might not be enough, Vasquez finished. Grimly, she turned to address the small diplomatic team assembled in the main cabin. Last chance to reconsider, people. We're about to attempt something that has killed everyone who's tried it before. Dr. Amara Okafor, the mission's xenobiologist, checked her equipment readings one final time. The signal is definitely coming from the surface, specifically from what appears to be a massive underground complex near the northern polar region. The structure extends at least 15 kilometers down. Senator Thorne, who had insisted on joining the mission despite considerable opposition, studied the atmospheric readings. The strangest part is that the signal is getting clearer as we approach, almost like they're adjusting their transmission to help us, or lure us in, muttered Chief Security Officer Williams, his hand never straying far from his sidearm. The ship's AI, Aria, spoke in her calm synthetic voice. Incoming transmission from the surface. Audio and visual components detected. The main screen flickered to life and every person on the bridge froze. The image showed what appeared to be a vast underground chamber, but that wasn't what stopped their hearts. It was the figures moving within it. They looked almost human, but somehow more. Taller, with elongated limbs and faces that seemed to shift between familiar and alien. Their skin had an odd, pearlescent quality that reflected the harsh light of their underground city in ways that defied physics. Most unsettling of all were their eyes, completely black but filled with an intelligence that felt ancient beyond measure. Greetings, travelers from distant worlds, the lead figure spoke in perfect galactic standard, its voice carrying harmonics that shouldn't have been possible. I am First Speaker Zara. We have watched your approach with great interest. Please, do not fear our world. We have prepared a safe place for you to land. Captain Vasquez found her voice. First Speaker Zara, I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Galactic Council vessel Harmony. We've come to respond to your message, but our records show that your planet cannot support life as we know it. Zara's expression, if it could be called that, seemed almost amused. Your records are correct, Captain. Our world cannot support life as you know it. But perhaps it is time you learned about life as we know it. The transmission cut to show an aerial view of a landing area that seemed to shimmer with some kind of protective barrier. The environmental readings were impossible. Inside the barrier, the temperature was a comfortable 23 degrees Celsius, with breathable atmosphere and normal pressure. How is that possible? Dr. Okafor whispered. Zara's voice returned. We have had many centuries to perfect our environmental controls, Dr. Okafor. Your reputation as a xenobiologist precedes you, as does the reputation of all your crew members. We have been studying your species for quite some time. A chill ran through the bridge. They knew their names. They knew their professions. How long had these beings been watching the galaxy? Captain, Zara continued, we understand your fear. Your species has lost contact with 3 expeditions to our world. We regret this was necessary, but they came with weapons and suspicion. You come with curiosity and hope. This makes all the difference. Senator Thorne stepped forward. What happened to our people? They are safe, Zara replied simply, and eager to see you again. They have much to tell you about the true nature of our galaxy. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. If the missing expeditions were alive, if these beings had that kind of power. Beginning final approach, Lieutenant Commander Patel announced, his voice barely above a whisper. As the Harmony descended through the toxic atmosphere of Kepler 438b, protected by barriers they didn't understand, created by beings they couldn't comprehend, Captain Vasquez wondered if they were about to make first contact with the galaxy's greatest threat, or its salvation. The landing was impossibly smooth, as if invisible hands had guided the Harmony to rest on the crystalline platform. Captain Vasquez led her team through the airlock, environmental suits humming with full life support. Though the readings showed, the artificial atmosphere around them was perfectly breathable. The welcoming committee was even more unsettling in person. First speaker. Zara stood nearly 3 meters tall, her pearlescent skin seeming to absorb and reflect light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Behind her, a dozen similar figures waited with impatience that felt eternal. Captain Vasquez, Senator Thorne, Dr. Okafor, and your brave companions. Zara's voice resonated through their suit comms with impossible clarity. Welcome to Haven. Haven. Senator Thorne stepped forward, her diplomatic training helping her maintain composure, despite the overwhelming strangeness of their situation. Is that what you call this place? It is what this place has become, Zara replied, gesturing with a limb that seemed to have too many joints. Follow us. There are people waiting to see you, people you thought were lost forever. They walked, through corridors carved from what looked like solid crystal, but which pulsed with veins of light that seemed almost alive. Dr. Okafor's instruments went wild trying to analyze the material, recording readings that made no scientific sense. First, speaker, Dr. Okafor said carefully, may I ask what your species is called? We have no records of anyone like you in our databases. Zara paused, and something that might have been sadness flickered across her alien features. We are called many things now, but long ago, before the change, we called ourselves human. The diplomatic team stopped dead in their tracks. Chief. William's hand moved to his weapon before Captain Vasquez caught his wrist. That's impossible, Senator Thorne whispered. Humans only achieved interstellar flight 3 centuries ago. This planet has been hostile to life for thousands of years. Your understanding of time is limited, Zara said gently. What you call thousands of years we have experienced differently, and the hostility of our world is not a natural phenomenon. They entered a vast chamber where the walls showed images of space, of planets, of civilizations rising and falling across the galaxy. But the images moved with a life of their own, telling stories that stretched back millions of years. Behold, Zara said, the truth your leaders have hidden from you. The images shifted to show a time before recorded history, when the galaxy was dominated by a species of incredible cruelty and power. The Devourers, they had called themselves, and they had consumed entire civilizations, harvesting their knowledge, their culture, their very essence. One colony of humans discovered their approach early enough to prepare. Zara continued. They came here, to this world, and used technology beyond current understanding, to make it uninhabitable to the Devourers. The surface became hell itself, but beneath, the images showed the construction of vast underground cities, the development of technology that could manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level, and the gradual transformation of the human colonists into something that could survive in their new world. We became the Guardians, Zara explained. We watch. We wait. And when the devourers return, and they will return, we will be ready. Dr. Okafor found her voice. The expeditions we sent here are safe and learning, as you will learn. The high galaxy faces a threat that will make your worst nightmares seem like pleasant dreams. But humanity, all of humanity, whether evolved on Earth or transformed on Haven, has allies now. A new figure entered the chamber, and Senator Thorne gasped. It was Admiral Sarah Mackenzie, commander of the research vessel Curiosity that had vanished 20 years earlier. She looked exactly the same as the day she disappeared, not having aged a single day. "Hello, Senator," Mackenzie said with a smile that was both familiar and strange. "We have so much to tell you, and so little time to prepare for what's coming." Captain Vasquez felt the ground shift beneath her feet, not physically but conceptually. Everything they thought they knew about the galaxy, about human history, about their place in the universe, was about to change. The signal, she realized. You weren't just saying hello to us, you were calling for help. Zara's black eyes reflected depths that seemed infinite. The scouts of the Devourers have been detected at the galactic rim. They will arrive within 50 years. The time for hiding is over. It is time for the galaxy to unite against the darkness that consumed our ancestors' civilizations. And if we refuse? Chief Williams asked, though his hand had moved away from his weapon. Then you will share the fate of 10,000 worlds that came before, Admiral Mackenzie said simply. But we don't think you will refuse. Because despite everything you've been told, humans have never been very good at giving up. As the implications of everything they had learned began to sink in, Captain Vasquez realized they weren't just witnesses to first contact anymore. They were the first soldiers recruited for a war that would determine the survival of every living being in the galaxy. The scariest planet in the galaxy hadn't sent a signal asking for friendship. It had sent a signal declaring war. Epilogue: The New Alliance. 6 months after the Harmony returned to Galactic Council space, the galaxy had transformed in ways both subtle and profound. The revelation that the humans of Haven had been preparing for an ancient enemy's return had sent shockwaves through every civilized world. Dr. Sarah Chen stood once again in her observation deck at Kepler Station, but now instead of monitoring empty space, she watched the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Ships from dozens of species worked together, retrofitting their hulls with technology provided by the Haven humans, technology that could turn a simple cargo hauler into a vessel capable of standing against the Devourers. Still hard to believe, isn't it? Captain Vasquez said, joining her at the viewport. The captain had been promoted to admiral and given command of the Integrated Defense Forces, a role that would have been impossible before the Alliance. All of it, Sarah replied. That humans have been out here for millennia. That we've faced this threat before and survived. That the scariest planet in the galaxy turned out to be our greatest hope. Through the reinforced transparent aluminum, they could see the Haven ship Eternal Vigil docked with the station. It looked more like a living organism than a machine, its hull shifting and adapting as its systems interfaced with the station's older technology. Aboard that ship, human survivors from 3 centuries of lost expeditions worked alongside beings who had once been human, but were now something greater. Admiral Mackenzie's briefing is starting soon, Vasquez noted. The first joint tactical session with all species representatives. Sarah nodded, but her attention was drawn to her monitoring equipment. The long-range sensors were picking up something at the very edge of their range, something vast and dark, moving between the stars with purposeful intent. "Elena," she said quietly, "you need to see this." Admiral Vasquez joined her at the sensor array, and her face went pale as she saw the readings. The signatures were unlike anything in their databases, but they matched perfectly with the energy patterns the Haven humans had warned them about. "How long?" she asked. 47 years, 8 months, Sarah calculated. Just like they predicted. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the impossible readings that represented the approach of humanity's oldest enemy. But instead of the terror that such knowledge might once have inspired, Sarah felt something else entirely. Hope. The galaxy was no longer divided by fear and suspicion. Every species, every world, every individual now knew that they faced a common threat that dwarfed all their previous conflicts. And they were preparing together, guided by humans who had spent centuries learning how to fight the unfightable. The scariest planet in the galaxy, Sarah murmured, thinking of the first time she had heard that phrase. Not anymore, Admiral Vasquez replied. Now it's the planet that's going to save us all. In the depths of space, the ancient enemy continued, its inexorable approach toward a galaxy that was no longer helpless. The Devourers had consumed countless civilizations across the eons, but they had never faced anything like what was waiting for them. They had never faced humanity united, both the humans of Earth and the transformed Guardians of Haven, working, together with allies from across the stars. The signal that had once terrified the galaxy by saying hello had become something far more significant, a declaration that this time, when the darkness came, the light would be ready. And for the first time in millions of years, the hunters were about to become the hunted. The end.